Number 97. So this is going to be really different from what we've ever done before. So here are, it says start with an ostinato, which means if you look at the top it says silence my soul. You can sing silence my soul, silence my soul. Or you can just sing. Maybe just start with an ah. You can keep doing that. You can sing that note on silence. You can say the word silence my soul. And then whoever would like to keep doing that. Whoever would like to join me on the verses, we can go ahead and sing that. Silence my soul, mysteries of prayer. Silence my soul, mysteries of prayer. I ask that you my soul, my soul is pure. Silence my soul, my soul is pure. I ask the soul. Tell me about God. Tell me about God. Silence my soul, is true. Silence my soul, is true. Tell me about God. Tell me about God. Silence my soul, is God. Silence my soul, is God. Across the earth,
I'm going to change plans, so that was perfect. That's that concentration.
You want to do kid stuff?
Oh, we were supposed to get stuff?
Well,
Apologies.
that's Becky. Becky, do you want
Is
to
she reading get stuff?
We have children's class today.
Are they doing something here or are we sitting?
I don't know.
So it's just sitting you?
We usually do how we want the kids in for the collection.
I was gonna do that at the end, then we're going back.
Oh, okay.
Alright,
All right.
so kids, that away.
Who wants to come and play? Let's go.
You okay, Lisa?
All right. Here we go. Luca's coming with us.
Hey, Sydney, can you help Luca? Can you help Luca?
You remember my hand? You hold Sydney's hand?
Can you share?
Yeah, you're gonna go with Sydney. Oh, how nice of you. So nice of you. I'll bring it back. Otherwise, she might knock down in about. You gonna go play?
Bye, Rose.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's have a prayer. All right, real quick prayer, guys. We pray that today we would learn. We pray that we would listen, become more the people who we're meant to be. We pray that we would become aware of our place, our purpose, and our goals. And that they would line up with all of humanity and all of who we
So we should say thank you to Aaron and to Jonathan, but mostly to Kristen, because she came up with all that stuff in like 5 minutes before we started. And those are songs I thought that was cool. You guys think it was cool? I'm a little nervous today because I'm doing something completely different. Okay? So if it goes terribly, be kind, okay? Here we go. A few of us are reading a book called Changing Lenses by Howard Zur. You know that book? Okay. It's about restorative. Right. We're reading it because of the death penalty activism. Because we wanted to go beyond the death penalty. Yeah. So we got to this part, kind of in the middle of the book, where Zur unwraps the idea of the biblical idea of shalom, or peace, right? Shalom means peace, more or less. He talks about shalom having 3 dimensions. First dimension is material well-being or prosperity. The second dimension is right interpersonal relationships. And the third is personal, straightforward honesty and integrity. So the first dimension is the world, and then people around you, and then yourself. Right? So there's a direction to it. In the book, he does something that I think is pretty typically Mennonite, though. He tries to draw away our attention from the private stuff, to make us look back out at the world. We're supposed to be thinking more about the idea of shalom as justice promoting. So we want a religion that's not so much about our internal life, more about the external world. He wants to make it less about what's sometimes called spirituality and more about real action. He points out that the dimension of material needs being met is the most central aspect of shalom in the Bible. When the word shalom is used in the Bible, it's most often referring to that outward kind of peace. And he also points out that the shalom that refers to our internal personal character, that's the least often used. Contrary to what we might think. We might think peace is in our hearts, but he's saying no, peace is mostly out there in the world. And I think it's good that he wants to shift the focus because we do get really selfish. But I'm going to propose an alternate way of getting there. We can sometimes end up putting ourselves into one of two camps. Some of us are focused on fixing ourselves and finding that peace within ourselves, and others focus on fixing the outside world. And I think that's a dangerous way of thinking. And Zur gets really close to that dangerous place of dividing the world into two separate places. It's far too gross a simplification. None of us are purely internal or external beings. We're all a blend. And when we divide groups along these lines, we're actually cutting through ourselves. And I'm not the most experienced preacher, but I know that this is the point where I'm supposed to talk about Genesis chapter 2. This is the part where God takes the clay and he shapes it, and then he breathes into it. He breathes wind into it, and he creates one unified being of flesh and spirit. You guys remember that story? That's the problem. You remember the story. I'm sick of that. Instead of that same old story, I'm going to try to use different illustrations from different books of Scripture that you probably are not so familiar with. So this weekend, I'm thinking I got a few weeks in a row of preaching. Maybe in the next few weeks, if this goes well, I'm going to try to draw a lot of illustrations, some from the Bible, but mostly from Taoist classics. Have you guys ever heard of Taoism? Yeah? Oh, damn. What can we start with? Taoism is something that I'm personally into a lot, and it's meaningful to me. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details about Taoism. It's a Chinese philosophy more than religion. There is a Taoist religion, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details because that's really a non-Taoist thing to do. Instead, I'm going to let you try to get your own sense of what it is I'm talking about. So I'm going to read some passages. I'll tell you real quick what these are. This is the Tao Te Ching. This is like the Taoist book. It's like the core thing. I'm also going to be reading out of Zhuangzi. This one is translated by Thomas Merton. So I'm not the only Christian who stepped out of bounds. He did it. And then this is Lao Tzu. So I don't know, you guys know about the Old Testament, how the Torah was the most core, and then the prophets, and then the writings. Well, this is not at all the same thing, but kind of like the Tao Te Ching is kind of the central thing. Zhuangzi is kind of the secondary book, and then Lao Tzu is one of those other people. So there's going to be some stories and some poems in here, and they're going to have corresponding passages in the Bible that I'll bring up. And the corresponding passages get at similar, roughly the same points. My personal view is that Christianity and Taoism interlock almost perfectly. There's some differences, but they're very close. And I would love sometime to get in an argument with James about how Taoism is better than Buddhism. We can have a fist fight about it. But maybe you'll agree that they fit well, maybe you won't. That's okay. Just want to throw this out there. I'm going to read some passages that have to do with the Tao. And that's one detail that we have to get clear on first. Tao literally translates path, walking, or way. And I have a friend from Japan that I just visited. He's living in Portland now. And he says that, I told him about it, that I was into it, and he like drew the Chinese symbol, because the Chinese symbol and the Japanese symbol match pretty well. And he sees it all the time in Japan. It's on like street signs, where you can walk and where you can't walk. It's the ordinary word for path, or walking. Or the way. But before Christianity was called Christianity, it too was called the way. So there's one similarity. It's the same metaphor. In both Taoism and Christianity, there's this understanding that most of society chases after things that don't ultimately matter. They obsess over things to the point of them becoming evil. The alternate way is to appreciate that we don't need to worry so much. Our world is well made, and our needs are easily provided for. It will just stop chasing after nonsense and let things be good. The truth is that we fit. Not only the world, but ourselves. We are well made. Even if we're injured or ill or dying, there's an inherent goodness to life. There's even goodness to be found when we're suffering. And that's kind of a mystery, but it's there. Both Taoism and Christianity agree that we don't need to avoid every potential problem. By moving along with the true way and against the currents of the rest of society, we can find shalom, peace, even in the midst of turmoil. Peace is built into the world. It was built there. Christians say that God built the peace into the world, personal God. Lao Tzu, who wrote, is ascribed to have written the Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu would say, he wouldn't talk about a personal God so much. He'd say this: beyond the senses lies great unity, invisible, inaudible, intangible. Know that which is beyond all beginnings, and you know everything here and now. Know everything in this moment, and you'll know the eternal Tao. So it's more of an idea or force or concept than a personal God. And that's the one big difference between Taoism and Christianity. But I think if you pay attention, you'll notice that's the biggest difference there is. A lot of what is being said is very, very simple. There's a few more broad ideas that characterize Taoism, and maybe I'll do that next week or the week after. But today I'm going to be focusing on that foundational concept that God, or the universe, or creation, or the Tao, or whatever you want to name the reality at the bottom of everything, that thing, whatever it is, or that person, is friendly to us. We're well made, and we fit. This reality is not just the source of all things, but it's also riding through time along with us. And in that way, Taoism corresponds to the sort of Christianity that believes that God is always present with us. It doesn't fit quite as well with deism. You guys know what deism is? This idea that, yeah, there's a God, he made everything, but he walked away and left us to do things on our own. Taoism doesn't quite jive with that, so because the Tao is pervasive, it's always in here, it's always guiding us. We would probably call it the spirit moving among us. So the Tao is not just our origin, it's the ocean that we continue to swim in. It's a subtle current that guides us. So the first, before I get going, I'm going to do this in 3 chunks. I think I'm going to read everything. I could let you guys, do you guys want to read the passages from the Bible? There's a few from the Bible. Or you can just let me drone on and on. What do you think? You have an opinion? No. I'll just drone on and on. But it's not going to be, I try to be like, what's the word, engaging or interactive, I try to do that. It's not going to be so much like that today. I'm just going to be talking. And if you guys want to close your eyes, I'm not telling you to close your eyes. But if you feel like just letting it soak in, that's cool. Because it's just going to be this tidbit and this other tidbit, and they're going to be connected. But I'm not going to talk to you about the connection. I'm just going to let you feel it, okay? The first thing I'll read is, well, this first group of passages has to do with the idea that we can rest, we can trust, and we can have faith. So this is from Luke 12. He said to his disciples, "For this reason I say to you, don't worry about your life, as to what you'll eat or for your body, as to what you put on. For your life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have no storerooms nor barns, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds? And which of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his lifespan? And then if you can't do even a little thing, why do you worry about other matters? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. But I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory clothed himself like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today, and tomorrow thrown into the furnace, how much more will he clothe you, you men of little faith? And don't seek what you can eat and what you'll drink. Now keep worrying. For all these things the nations of the world eagerly seek. But your Father knows that you need these things. Seek his kingdom, and these things will be added to you. Don't be afraid, little flock, for your Father has chosen gladly to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions, give to charity, make yourself money belts that don't wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes, where no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The great Tao flows everywhere. It fills everything to the left and to the right. All things owe their existence to it. It cannot deny any one of them. Tao is eternal. It does not favor one over the other. It brings all things to completion without them even knowing it. Tao nourishes and protects all creatures. It does not claim lordship over them. So we class it with the most humble. Tao is the home to which all things return, yet it wants nothing in return. So we call it the greatest. The sage is the same way. He doesn't claim greatness over anything. He's not even aware of his own greatness. Tell me, what could be greater than this? Fishes are born in water. Man is born in Tao. If fish is born in water, seek the deep shadow, the pond and pool, all their needs are satisfied. If man born in Tao sinks into the deep shadow of non-action, to forget aggression and concern, he lacks nothing. His life is secure. The moral, all the fish needs is to get lost in the water. All man needs is to get lost in Tao. There was a man who was born in the country of Yan, but grew up far away in the land of Chu. In his old age, he had a longing for his homeland, and he decided to return there to live. As he journeyed towards the country of his birth, he passed the country of Chen. His companions on the road decided to play a trick on him. So one of them said, "This is your hometown," and the man became silent and thoughtful. Another friend pointed to a building and said, "Look, there's your neighborhood temple." The man sighed deeply. One companion led him to an abandoned house, and he said, "Here is the home of your ancestors." And the man broke down in tears. Another companion noticed him, or motioned him towards a group of tombstones. And he said, "Your ancestors are buried here." Then the man began to weep very bitterly and loudly. Seeing his distress, the friends decided the joke was over. So they told him they're just playing a trick. The homesick man was very embarrassed about his emotional outbursts. He kept quiet for the rest of the day. When he finally reached his hometown, he saw his ancestral home and his family tombs, but he did not feel as bad. Can we say the man got upset over nothing when his friends teased him? We cannot say his emotions were false, because he truly believed what his friends told him. Our emotions are the result of our beliefs. They have nothing to do with what's really out there. If we believe one thing, then certain emotions follow. If we believe some other thing, we'll experience different emotions. Understanding this, the homesick man realized his emotions depended on what he believed he saw, not what was really there. So when he finally reached his homeland, he was less attached to his home, and as a result, his feelings were less stirred by his surroundings. That's the first group. These next ones are about being able to face chaos and trouble and still have peace, even in the hard times. This is Matthew 8. Now when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to depart to the other side of the sea. And then a scribe came and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Another of his disciples said to him, "Lord, permit me first to go and bury my father." But Jesus said, "Follow me and allow the dead to bury their own dead." Then he got onto the boat. His disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being covered with waves. But Jesus himself was asleep. They came to him and woke him and said, "Lord, save us, we're perishing." But he said to them, "Why are you afraid, you men of little faith?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and became perfectly calm. The men were amazed and said, "What kind of man is this, that even the winds of the sea obey him?" The difference between a formal yes and a casual yeah, how slight. But the difference between knowing truth and not knowing it, how great. Must I fear what others fear? Should I fear desolation when there's abundance? Should I fear darkness when the light is shining everywhere? Nonsense. The people of this world are steeped in their merrymaking, as if gorging at a great feast, or watching the sights of springtime. Yet here I sit without a sign, staring blank-eyed like a child. I'm but a guest in this world. While others rush about to get things done, I accept what is offered. Though my mind is like that of a fool, aloof to the clamor of life around me. Everyone seems so bright and alive with the sharp distinctions of day. I appear dark and dull, with the blending of differences by night. I'm drifting like an ocean, floating like the high winds. Yet everyone is so rooted in this world, but I have no place to lay my head. Indeed, I am different. I have no treasure but the eternal mother. I have no food but what comes from her presence. When the ruler knows his own heart, the people are simple and pure. When he meddles with their lives, they become restless and disturbed. Bad fortune? Yes, it rests upon good fortune. And good fortune? Yes, it hides within bad fortune. Oh, the things that heaven sends. Who can know their final name? Who can tell their endless ways? Today the righteous turn to trickery. Tomorrow the good turn to darkness. Oh, what delusion abounds, yet every day it grows worse. But the sage is here upon the earth to gently guide us back. He cuts but does not harm. He straightens but does not disrupt. He illumines but does not dazzle. There was a man who was so disturbed by the sight of his own shadow and so displeased with his own footsteps that he determined to get rid of both. The method he hit upon was to run away from him, so he got up and ran. But every time he put his foot down, there was another step, while the shadow kept up with him without the slightest difficulty. He attributed his failure to the fact that he was not running fast enough, so he ran faster and faster without stopping until he finally dropped dead. He failed to realize that if he merely stepped into the shade, his shadow would vanish. If he sat down and stayed still, there would be no more footsteps.
Whoa.
Someone asked Lao Tzu, "Why do you value emptiness?" Lao Tzu said, "Most people like to be praised. They feel good when their accomplishments are acknowledged. However, I feel that we would be better off if we were empty of passions, not imprisoned by recognition, approval, and disapproval. In the long run, we'd have fewer things to worry about. That's why I value emptiness. Lao-Tzu paused and then continued. Even if you were given credit for doing something, you should realize it's not entirely your own doing. The events occur because conditions are right, and your action only contributes to one of the many conditions. We're accustomed to thinking that when things happen, there are accomplishments. We don't understand that there's actually nothing to accomplish. Therefore, rather than accept credit that does not belong to anyone, why not quiet down and think about the workings of heaven and earth? Seeing the emptiness of things can help us cultivate stillness and peace of mind. If you don't know how to keep still in this crazy world, you'll be drawn into all kinds of unnecessary trouble. You'll lose your view of the way, and when you realize it, it'll be too late. For in losing the way, you will have lost yourself. Zhuangzi once told a story about two persons who both lost a sheep. One person got very depressed and lost himself in drinking, sex, and gambling. He tried to forget his misfortune. The other person decided that this would be an excellent chance for him to study the classics and quietly observe the subtleties of nature. Both men experienced the same misfortune, but one man lost himself because he was too attached to his loss, to the experience of loss, and the other man found himself because he was able to let go of gain and loss. And this is the last group of passages. And we'll sit down and be quiet. They have to do with not just having peace in the midst of trouble, but having peace even in the face of death. And it's this knowledge that we have nothing to fear from death. So I'll start with 1 Corinthians 15. But when this perishable will have put on the imperishable, and this mortal will have put on immortality, then will come about the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Death, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? Be still. Stillness reveals the secrets of eternity. Eternity embraces the all-possible. The all-possible leads to a vision of oneness. A vision of oneness brings about a universal love, and universal love supports the great truth of nature. The great truth of nature is the way. Whoever knows this truth lives forever. The body may perish, deeds may be forgotten, but he who has the way has all eternity. Again and again, men come in with birth, go out with death. 1 out of 3 are followers of life, 1 out of 3 are followers of death, and those just passing from life to death also number 1 or 3. So they all die in the end. Why is this so? Because they clutch to life, they cling to the passing world. I hear that there's one who lives by his own truth, who's not like this. He walks about without making footprints in the world. Going about, he does not fear the rhinoceros or the tiger. Entering a battlefield, he does not fear the sharp weapons. For in him, the rhino has no place to pitch his horn. The tiger has no place to fix its claw. The soldier no place to thrust his blade. Why is this so? Because he dwells in that place where death cannot enter. Four men got into a discussion. Each one said, "Who knows how to have the void for his head, to have life for his backbone, to have death for his tail? He shall be my friend." At this, they all looked at each other and they agreed, and they burst out laughing and became friends. Then one of them fell ill, and the other went to see him. "Great is the Maker," said the sick one, "who has made me as I am. I am so doubled up, my guts are over my head. Upon my navel I rest my cheek. My shoulders stand out beyond my neck. My crown is an ulcer surveying the sky. My body is chaos, but my mind is in order." He dragged himself to the well. He saw his reflection and declared, "What a mess he's made of me." His friend asked, "Are you discouraged?" "Not at all. Why should I be? If he takes me apart and makes a rooster of my left shoulder, I shall announce the dawn. If he makes a crossbow of my right shoulder, I shall procure roast duck. If my buttocks turn into wheels and my spirit is a horse, I will hitch myself up and ride around in my own wagon. There's a time for putting together and a time for taking apart. He who understands this course of events takes each new state in its proper time, with neither sorrow nor joy. The ancients said that for persons who cultivated the body and mind, who are virtuous and honorable, death is an experience of liberation, a long-awaited rest from a lifetime of labors. Death helps the unscrupulous person to put an end to the misery of desire. Death, then, for everyone is a kind of homecoming. This is why the ancient sages speak of dying person as a person who's going home. On the other hand, a living person is a traveling person. Normally, if a traveler fails to find his home when the journey is over, everyone agrees that this person has lost his way. However, in the journey of life, many travelers only know how to wander, but don't know how to return home. Yet people don't see that these travelers have lost their way. If a man leaves his family and his livelihood and wanders far from home, everyone says he's crazy and irresponsible. But if a man appears to use his skill and intelligence to make a name for himself, and ensures that everybody recognizes his achievements, he's regarded as a great man. But actually, both men have strayed from their true nature. Only the sages can tell who's lost their original nature and who has retained it. I'm just going to wrap up with the passage of the Bible that I think most lines up, most expresses this idea that we can be free from worry. And I bet you it would be Lao Tzu's favorite passage in the Bible if you'd ever read it. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the tracks of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will track me down all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.